Welcome, mourners. Welcome to the Underworld. This is the Court of the Deadstream, and I'm your Arcaneist, Satine Phoenix. And today we have amazing things to share with you. We have two awesome features. Feature number one, we have amazing guests who are going to share a wonderful Court of the Dead announcement with you that may have to do with gaming. And the second is we have these three exclusive new pieces to share with you, the Muses. So let's get to it. I would like to introduce, we have Tom Gilliland, the Chief Creative Officer of Sideshow and the creator of Court of the Dead.
How you doing?
It's good to see you, man.
You bet.
And James Hudson, Director of Gaming at Skybound.
Hey, y'all.
So I would like to chit-chat with you, but I'm not going to. I'm going to jump right into it. There is an announcement. Tom, what is this announcement?
So, Court of the Dead, if I made this property for anything, it was gaming. And so, having that taste so far is just not enough. So looking for more. So, connecting with James and Skybound presented us a terrific opportunity to take Court of the Dead infinitely farther than I could have imagined. And, James is like the gaming enthusiasm font of never-endingness. So I knew that in this ship and this collection with Skybound that we had kind of a mind meld about Court of the Dead and how we could take the different themes, the different ways that I'd like to see the property expressed, and divide those down into different gaming experiences that, James got a tremendous amount of experience in kind of conjuring some terrific gaming experiences. And I was like, this is going to be, one for the books, man. So I'm so totally stoked about this. We have our first game we're talking about already, right?
I think
so. Yeah, let's talk about these games. How many are we developing?
Currently, we're developing 3 games.
Okay.
First on the docket, I think, is going to be an expansion for Superfight that will be Court of the Dead specific. So if you're a Superfight fan, which was a big party game in the Skybound lineup, where you get to argue through made-up characters. So essentially, you get a card, maybe let's say it's Abraham Lincoln, and then you'll get a couple of attributes like has chainsaw arms and can fly. Right, versus
President I remember.
Right, and then you might have Sean Connery, who has laser eyes and can hold his breath forever. And then we argue who would win in that fight, and everyone at the table is the judge, and they're like, yeah, Sean Connery wins because he can hold his breath underwater, and he made the fight go underwater, Aquaman style. It can go in 1,000 different directions. So we're going to have a Court of the Deck specific deck of cards that will play into that, so all fans of Court of the Dead can really, they can nerd it out, they can geek it up.
Awesome. Okay, that's number one.
That's
What
number
is
one.
number two?
Number 2.
So number 2 is a card game called Dark Harvest, and this then is going to actually be a game that centers on what the real sort of dark conundrum of Court of the Dead is. For the Underworld, they're sort of enslaved to have to harvest mortal souls on behalf of a very fractured celestial kingdom of heaven and hell, neither of which are interested in salvation nor damnation. They just want the etheria that rides in mortal souls. The Underworld Mourners and the All-Taker himself enslaved to collect that, whereas the mortals in our world, or in the Court of the Dead world, pretty much do all the work of providing the souls. So the mortal world in Court of the Dead, very violent place, not really the one we live in on every given day, but a very sort of fictionalized one that sort of accommodates the sort of machinery of this mythology. But so what it zeroes in on is kind of making sure that you're collecting on behalf of the Celestial Kingdom while trying to build the Underworld's sort of cachet up so that it can stand on its own 2 feet and affect the rebellion that it knows it needs to be a part of to kind of correct this celestial disorder.
Oh, that was a very brief description.
I know. I'm really
No, it's good. No, it's really fascinating. I love hearing more. I want to hear more about it, and we'll get to that. Give a little teaser. There is 3.
Yeah,
Just a little taste. A teeny little.
I would say
word.
the only thing we really want to talk about on game number 3, Project X.
We'll just call it for now. We'll call it Project X. We'll
Is-
loop back around it in a moment.
I would say one of the things that I love about jamming with Tom is that when he's really unpacking his worlds, it's not just like a ground level. It's not a shallow end of the pool. It's you're that's like the description we just got, right? Like a lot of people would have gave that a very brief once over. But if you're going to invest in something that Tom's making, it's going to be deep and it's going to nurture your soul, right? Like I came away the first time I met him going, this guy's going to get along, right? We jive the same way, and so that's a big experience. That is like a deep narrative, big experience is what we're shooting for on Project X. What people would expect Tom to make out of a board game.
I like that. That's
It's
nice.
better
That's
you
a
answer
teaser.
because I would have run the whole thing.
I know, right?
Okay, so let's go a little deeper on Dark Harvest.
Sure.
James.
Sure. So I think most people are going to say, James, what are the mechanics of this game? And
What are the mechanics of this game?
So we initially set out to make a nice, light party game, and it still dabbles in that area, but it's a little bit more strategic than that now. It's a little more aligned with the Court of the Dead world, and there's a little bit of cutthroatness to the game, whereas you're really trying to outposition everyone else at the table, and you are bidding souls into a set amount of souls that need to be sent up through the Death Forge, or you're going to get the ire of the Celestials will be upon us, and also Death will be pretty pissed because we keep failing at
He's got a plan.
these things, and
Needs to
he's
happen.
literally coming back and going, you guys are screwing up way too much here. So it has a bunch of different things that are pulling you, levers pulling you in different directions, and at the end, whoever is able to please all of the souls the most and then keep behind the screen the most, they win. But all of our favorite characters make their way onto the board, and we get to leverage their influence one way or the other. And so, yeah, it plays very quickly. It's a maybe a 15, 20 minute.
Oh, that's cool.
People play it typically through their play tests, and they're like, okay, cool, can we do that again now that I have a better idea of what's going on? And it kind of has that, like, you're probably going to play it 3-4 times in a gaming session.
Cool. For those of you out there who have many questions, we are doing live Q&A, so why don't you go ahead and put your questions in the chat, breeze in the chat, and filter them to me, and we will ask them after we go into a more deep dive. So let's see here. For the Dark Harvest, let's see. Is this something for experienced players, or people who know the Court of the Dead, or is this a good gateway to introduce them?
Yeah, it's definitely, our goal is it to be enough teeth for an experienced gamer to enjoy, but then also mechanics that anyone can sit down and have explained to them quickly, and then they're up and running. You may not do extremely well against an experienced player who's very cunning, but it won't take long for you to kind of pick up what's going on. So, we were trying to hit the breadth of everything.
Yeah, I think the success of the way that it came about, and what I really appreciated was that you get a really nice look at the cast, and it's pretty broad in this game. And so if you don't know Court of the Dead, you get a chance to kind of get an understanding of, like, okay, based on the power they have, there's a certain echo of what they must be about. So I felt that was nice in terms of the new initiate to Court. For those that have been played or been watching the lore for some time and whatnot, and you look and you see, oh, I see that power. That makes total sense. I get it. I think in terms of mechanic, it was interesting. We played in the tests we did with some diehard gamers and some who barely play games at all. And the gent Ricky Lovis on the staff, who does not play games, creamed all of us. So there's ways to see the strategy and then ways to sort of see the lore, and then I think those two kind of come together to kind of create that sort of perfect Reese's peanut butter cup.
He actually broke that playtest, so we fixed the game.
That's awesome. That's what playtests are for,
That's
right?
exactly what playtests are for. Yeah.
Cool. So Court of the Dead is known for its beautiful artwork. What can we expect out of this?
Well, you know what? I wanted to do something a little different with this one, and we talked about this, and I think the aspect that, a party game, which, to me, right, that name is a little bit light for my general taste, but as I've come to be made aware, party games have a broad sort of personality. So it was like, no, you can still do all your dark, creepy stuff. Don't worry about it. But there's an artist that we've been working with behind the scenes for a while who does some incredibly styled stuff. Her name is Abigail Larson. She has, I always felt, a very compelling sort of quasi-Victorian animation kind of a look to her art style. And it's just very gothic feeling, but it brings out a richness in the characters. And so I think in this game where you get one card, one view, it's largely a bust shot of the character and their expression, kind of had to have that emotive quality. And the work she does in that regard is just really fantastic. And at the same time, it has a kind of whimsical, Burton-esque kind of fun touch to it,
so
which I always
cool.
felt Court was, there's dark parts that are very dark, and there's other parts that are, the whimsy and the sort of, the environment of Ilverness, the great city, kind of a place that does have some dark fun to it too. And I wanted that to come across in this game that already has kind of a heavy theme overhanging the piece.
I like that dark fun, because that's
Dark
real.
fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want dark fun? Right?
Exactly. Okay, guys, when can we play it?
When can we play it? We will definitely be demoing at upcoming conventions like Gen Con and New York Comic Con. But currently we're shooting for a November release, somewhere around the November, December before the holidays hit.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this is a nice fast track. So the project came together really, really quickly. So
Yeah, it's more of and I would say party game's probably too light of a term for this game. It's more of a social strategic card game.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Like you
Yeah.
could play it while you're waiting in line, or is it like
Uh,
you need
you
kind
know-
of a setup?
You need a little bit of space, but like if you were at a convention in the floor, in a queue line, you could totally get in the floor and play this in the floor.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for that. I'm really excited. But now I want to talk about Superfight expansion pack.
Yeah.
All right. So for those who don't know, what is it? How do you play it?
Yeah, so it's that silly game that we described earlier with the whole Abraham Lincoln and the shark arms, and it's been around for 4 or 5 years in our line, and it's a massively popular party game. And it's the reason people enjoy it so much is there is essentially no rules. You can sit down and say, can you argue this? And people love to argue. And then everyone gets a turn being the judge at the table and having that opportunity to really go. I've watched people do this, and you'll see these, I call them, nerd arguments, like the Superman Batman nerd argument type thing, right?
It goes back to the Little Rascals. So.
It does. And no one's really right or wrong, right? You can't really talk about how Abraham Lincoln would lose to Sean Connery with laser eyes or whatever, right? Because it's nonsensical, but it's just stupid fun. And then so getting to sprinkle in the Court of the Dead world is going to be very exciting, right? To see, so what's Kier going to do? Like, okay, so Kier's going to have is Kier going to have laser eyes with, a squid legs? I don't know, right? Like there's going to be some craziness. So Court of the Dead fans, being able to pick up this expansion, I think is going to they're going to have a lot of fun with this.
Okay. So can you give any kind of powers that the Court of the Dead will bring to, say, I have here, against killer clowns and insect overlords that are already in Superfight?
There's killer clowns, huh?
Yeah, there's 29 expansions to Superfight, so if you can think it's been fun.
Well, I think an immediate strategy for any core character would be to show that this silly mirth that they're using in the moral realm, has its own cosmic, counterbalance or whatnot. And so probably pulling the rug out from under them on what the creepy humor of existence really is. I think there's probably a shortcut down in that regard.
Yeah.
Insect overlords, you just go to work sword and steel there, and that takes care of the business, right?
Absolutely.
Well, plus I don't know, insect overlords feel like they got to burrow through stuff and
I don't know why that's so gross to me.
Whereas core characters can blink and bamf and move all over the place through stepping through the shadows and everything else. So you never know where they're coming at you.
It'll be some interesting combinations of like even taking pop culture things like Iron Man having shard swords, things like that. Like seeing how fans and players want to argue through those things as their advantages, right? Because you're arguing for that it being an advantage, but your counterpart may be using that same information as not an advantage. So it's just always just fun to watch people try to set up their arguments with the different cards that they get.
Well, and I love the elasticity of the idea. So I think, again, the characters that you maybe don't necessarily know that well, or ones that you do, in this, as it will very well be the case for Court, you'll either know, like, well, I know because I read this comic, so I know they can do this, so here you go. What I would be more interested, certainly, to see is going to be how much people are able to sort of deduce from the lore and then put their own investment in. I think that,
cool.
Court, I always tried to make it so that certainly my vision of how I would like it to go, but there's a lot of elasticity in there. And I mean, it was designed as a world build with a story narrative that drives through it, but the world build itself has a lot of weird elements to it that, I'm never really going to get to be able to play in every bucket.
Yeah.
So this brought, an opportunity to the table that let, obviously the sort of silliness that lets you come into it, but I think like anybody who's really playing these games takes their arguments and their reasoning pretty darn seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So to hear these reasoned arguments for stuff is interesting because sometimes that triggers things in my mind that goes, hey, that's actually a really good idea. I should rope that in and actually make that part of that character's canon. So I think it'll be neat to play it that way. And right now I play with the kids a number of these games like Say Anything where you're writing down stuff. The game is designed to be very family friendly. And we have made it very non-family friendly,
Noted.
Right? Stretching that elasticity.
Yeah.
So to see games like this where you get to play that way, these are huge fun. They're a big part of certainly my family's Friday nights, and we have a lot of extended guests coming over. And so games like this are a big hit because you don't have to spend 30 minutes explaining how the game works, hoping they retain 50% enough that you can play reasonably. This is the kind of game you sit down and you're off to the races pretty much right away.
One of the things you said is a great segue for Project X. Talking about the different buckets. Tom's built so many such a massive world out of Court of the Dead. This isn't just a very thinly veiled narrative. Like when we started talking to Tom about some of the other stuff, that he just started bringing out folders and massive. He's like, well, let's look through this and see if there's any characters. And it was one of the big motivations behind Project X. It's like, well, Tom, what's one of those buckets that you haven't got to kind of really take us through that we could use as the narrative for Project X. And then we spent 3 days holed up in your office going through those big folders of characters and lore, and I can't explain the amount of excitement that I had. It's like it was nerdvana, right? It was just awesome. We have hit a level of getting to build a story and a narrative that's going to be, I guess we could say the word, it's campaign based.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so, to cut to your your main vibe. But I mean, Court of the Dead is my elaborate D&D campaign in long form. So
that's why we get each other.
So in the conversations we've had, that's where we end up turning. So how does this work? So in terms of Court, there's a timeline epic of things, and these are sort of the buckets, if you will, or the crypts is maybe a better way of putting it.
I like that.
So open the crypt. What was going on in this particular time in the underworld, and within that sphere of things, all manner of adventures, and how were they able to continue on mission towards this rebellious purpose?
There's all these questions, but I have more questions for you. I want to know more about the setting, the cast. Okay, setting. Where do we start? Where does this? What can you? I know you're not supposed to say a lot. I want to know everything.
You know what? We could say that, and it ties to something else. But if you've read the Shadows in the Underworld graphic novel, the story for Project X is essentially the reaction to what took place in that.
Oh my God, that's a big
So
spoiler.
That's a bit obscure. Well, it's not a direct thing. You won't get to the last page, and he says, we need to do X.
Right.
But you'll see that they were dealing with the Dread script, which in the Underworld is kind of one of their major perils. If it's not the Celestials overlording them, it's their own dark nature that they're trying to rise above through their noble ambitions. And this Dread script is a real thing. It eats at their psyche. The more they use power, the more that they potentially fall to its dark purposes. And that is often where a lot of the story themes in the kind of pre-getting down to business with the Celestials is in trying to manage that process. You're trying to build an entity, but at the same time, there's elements that are kind of cannibalizing it. I think everybody can appreciate this from anything you've been in. You may have had a job like this, a hobby like this, anything. So drawing from what you know, right? So I think that's probably a pretty good lead-in. So see some of those characters come over.
It's a cornucopia for game mechanics. Like that, what Tom just described with the whole like the power struggle between what my abilities are and the Dreadsbane taking me over is a fun thing to explore in a game mechanic, right? It's like, cool, I got these abilities that I can use and these fun powers, but then if I use them too much, then I become
you lose yourself.
a raker, you know?
And like that's pretty important. So there are new characters or just
there is
characters?
a mix of new characters and old. I think the way we've been talking about it is that we'd like to introduce a sort of new cast for the actual players so that they're very much court-touched designed characters, but they're new. So that allows the player to kind of infuse a little bit of themselves in it. And I think that's always important to me. Certainly from a role-playing game standpoint, that's the juice, is that you get to influence the story.
But how do you relate to? Because you want to be a part of the bigger picture, and
so the bigger characters will then make numerous guest appearances in the narrative and be there to kind of help buffer you along or whatnot.
And you're going to have some ability to influence what they do.
Yeah.
So it's not. It felt wrong to be like, I'm Kier, right? That just doesn't seem
no.
right.
Oh yeah. No,
because then what's the cost,
Underworld works
right?
on a kind of quirky barter system. So even though they're all on the same team, it's like they all have their own approach to how they're going to get the mission done. So you and I are trying to figure something out, and I need this tomb dealt with, and you need this other situation handled. Okay, we better figure this out. So characters especially like Kier, a sort of rebellious Valkyrie who's off doing her own thing all the time, is that's going to be a little bit of a hard pull to get her to kind of come down to what you're dealing with in the moment. So
it's easy to get Odium to do what you want, right?
yeah, you just
ask
some
him.
raw meat in a general direction and he has to start pounding. So there's a lot of the big mainstay characters get opportunities to come into this game. Especially important to us in the design phase was to satisfy those all the mourners that know these characters and like how can they not be in it, but also we know that these are the most popular characters too, so new gamers to the court world will definitely want to have these interactions. I loved the idea of I think I have this right, we talked about this a little bit, but the Pathfinder role-playing system has kind of its own hero archetypes within this organization, so you don't really play them but you interact with them often. I found that to be an interesting way to look at stuff. I think other games have found ways to kind of create this sort of superhero element to their world, and that's like what you're aspiring to. And I think that then in this game too has a similar kind of a means. And I think if you were going to be handed the character of Kier, well then now you got to know all the lore and the responsibilities to play that. But if we create these other characters that have outs that you can fill in the blanks, I think that's going to be a lot more fun for folks, and it's also going to allow us to bring in some other more unusual characters that live out in the wallows and things like that of the Underworld that don't really get to be seen in the court stories so much, but exist in the world.
Oh my gosh, you broke my head. I'm so excited. James, what attracted you to Court of the Dead?
It's a great question. It was funny because we partnered up on Mourner's Call, and that's where we initially met, and we worked on some stuff. And it was kind of like, hey, James, can you help with the Kickstarter? And it's absolutely no problem. And here's your homework. Come home back from this meeting, and I got the omnibus and the graphic novel. And you kind of look at, sometimes you get assignments in our profession sometime, and you're like, okay, whatever, I need to read this stuff. But this was one of those, like, you crack the first page, and you're like, oh wow, this is different. This is not a standard IP that just is out there. And I just consumed on the flight home. I consumed everything. And then when I went home, I was like, Tom, what else do you have? Give me some more stuff. I need more stuff. And he was like, okay, wait, calm down. I got some stuff I can send you, but you need to bring it back down a notch. And the next time we talked, I was just like, I was quoting things back to him. He was like, I don't even remember that. Wait, where did we put that? I was like, I found this on an online file in an old video like from 5 years ago. And he was like, oh yeah, we need to update that.
And that's when your bromance happened?
That's when the bromance happened. And so that, honestly, it's just when we love good narratives, right? Look at the Harry Potters, look at the Marvels. Like, when a narrative is really good, it just kind of sucks you in. And this is just a really good narrative.
What faction?
That's it, that's all I got.
What's your faction?
Oh, I'm Flesh. Yeah.
Me too.
Flesh.
Yeah.
You could call those a mile away.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, are you guys ready for some questions from the
We're
audience?
so ready.
Probably not, but hit me with them.
Okay. Oh wow, there's a lot. Oh goody.
Nice.
Okay. How is Dark Harvest different from Mourner's Call?
Wow.
They're very
extremely
different.
So I think maybe the commonality is the notion of the tithing to the Celestials, which is pretty much a daily situation in the Underworld. So it lifts that kind of element out of it. Otherwise, though, my sort of layman's terminology for board gaming is nothing like James's, but so Dark Harvest is a very kind of condensed, focused kind of point of view on just liberating souls and paying off the overlords. Mourner's Call really takes a much bigger sort of the big picture of what's going on in the city and draws into politics and whatnot on a much more granular level and a bigger level.
And a very practical look at it too is that Mourner's Call is a $90 big box game, whereas Dark Harvest is going to be more like a $25 small box game. So they're very different in even execution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know this. Let's see. Michael Stark says, Tom, any chance we'll get another court art print by Olivia? Olivia did an art print.
Olivia did 2 art prints. So she's done Gethsemane and she's done Galabarb. And I would work with Olivia, painting a mural on an alley wall. I mean, whatever it was that she wanted to do. She is amazing. I mean, kind of growing up appreciating, her all the artwork that she has built, which is substantial. But beyond that is just a person of incredible sweetness, incredible, just so genuine, and so willing to talk about the art and just interact. And at first I was like, what am I? I'm going to tell Olivia her business?
Yeah,
no.
No.
But she was like, what do you think? And she just really wanted you to be a participant.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
so I really loved that. And she kind of seized onto the court, certainly from the point of view of, a lot of the really, large female cast that's definitely empowered, definitely running the show. And she had no problem identifying the different jags of expression that were coming from the different characters and seizing on ones that really kind of struck her nerve or whatnot. Gethsemane and Galabarb and their kind of sort of fleshy, big picture expressionism kind of caught her eye right away or whatnot. So I think that the potential for that is always big. She's got a lot of things on her plate. So, but that's always something that we powwow over, and we're due for another discussion.
I think it's about time. Yeah.
Get to that.
Okay, Gabriel Munoz wants to know if I'm going to be present at New York Comic Con. Maybe, possibly. Can we go to New York Comic Con? We'll ask the gods, and they will tell us. Next question is, Kevin Durrell asks, how many Court of the Dead tats does Tom have?
How many tats?
Court of the Dead tats.
Well, it's all like one, but I did just get a new one.
Oh, yeah?
Ooh. It's not finished, so it's just the black line. But
oh, beautiful.
So this is Elian Astus, the head of spirit. Where should I be looking? Right here. There we go. Ta-da!
Wow!
So, there'll be let's see if I can do this. There'll be a little spectral spirit faction logo skull there that she's kind of conjuring between her 2 arms, which kind of spread out across the shoulder. I'm pretty thin, so the canvas here is kind of tight. So, but so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know. It's about 8. And I forgot how many hours I sat under the needle for this one.
Wow, that's awesome.
Half the time
They're
I fall
beautiful.
asleep at this point.
Is it all the same tattoo artist?
Yeah, well, it was Spencer Caligari. I may have gotten his last name Caligari, I believe so. Over at Direwolf Studios here in Thousand Oaks. Amy did this piece and the original court logo.
Cool.
But I know she uses a different professional name, so I forget what it is that I feel horrible for doing.
We'll figure it out in post.
All right.
Okay. Kevin Durrell asks, when someone asks you how you are doing, have you ever answered based on your D&D alignment?
I don't know, live my D&D character alignment.
Yeah, right?
What is your alignment?
Let's see, I was almost always either chaotic neutral to chaotic good.
chaotic good.
Chaotic good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're creators.
Yeah.
Yeah, we dabble in the darkness. Yeah, okay, cool. Black Sail asks, how many new premium format statues will we see at San Diego Comic-Con?
Okay, so the kind of weighing process for San Diego Comic-Con has been one that has taken me to the point to think it's really fun to run out all the new stuff we're working on and get it hustled up and on the show floor. It shows well, everybody gets stoked. But it's a two-edged sword. In years past, we've shown things that are maybe premature. They're finished, but the production run does take a long time to load things in amongst all the other things we're doing and whatnot. So I was starting to feel like we were showing things, getting people excited, and then kind of bleeding that off by there being so much time until that gets sort of satisfied. So we decided to kind of rein that back and show things that are really just relevant for kind of the next sales cycle. Now there will be a brand new Court premium format. Yes. And I think it's cool enough that singularly it should more than satisfy. Yay! And I think there's a lot of other things that are going on too that are going to be brought onto the display. You're going to be able to see the prestige statuettes in their production form. Not, in the past we've shown the resin prototypes. These are the actual deliverable pieces. I think everybody's going to be stoked with the way they came out. They're really, really tight. There's also a number of other kind of surprises, one of which you're going to be highlighting in the next part of the segment today. So I think there's going to be a number of, PFs are certainly the sort of capital flagship, but the fleet of other kind of categories is starting to broaden in ways that we can, express Court. So I'm excited about that. I think everybody's going to be happy with, there's some new stuff to see, there's some things that they have seen that are going to be shown again, but shown under the context like, hey, this is actually now just around the corner. So I think one of those being Odium. So that's not terribly far away at this point. In fact, I know across the street in the pre-production office is I believe one that we approved, finished production exam.
I know what we're doing after this.
Yes.
It looks absolutely killer. So.
If it disappears from the office when I leave.
Why does your shirt look weird? You're like, no reason.
What you got under your jacket?
Okay.
That's okay. Odium will just come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New question. Michael Stark asks, will the life-size replicas be making a real-life appearance on the live show soon? Life-size?
Life-size replicas. I assume you're referring to like the one-to-one all-taker or maybe the busts?
Details are not within.
Yeah.
Which?
The Queen's Crown and the Clear Mask.
Oh, will they make appearances on the show?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, through the process of highlighting everything. So I think that those were somewhat previewed, and I think that that's stuff that you're going to be able to see ongoing as the sales machinery starts to step in and push the promotion on that, and show more details. So
I need a
I
clear
know that
mask.
those will definitely be on
Oh,
display
yeah.
at Comic-Con as well. So.
It's like go into a meeting and have my cure mask on. Like they know this guy means business. Right?
Exactly.
I have bad news.
You got your good news crown, your bad news mask.
Right?
Okay, Ben Kepner asks, will there be minis in the Project X game?
I think that's a yes.
Oh, that's a definite yes. Yeah. Yeah, the campaigness of it in Tom can talk about it, but he's a huge war gamer. And so that was one of the first things, like we love big, sprawling narratives, miniatures. It makes sense with everything here that we have that representation in a game. And there is something fun about if you like painting miniatures, to paint your own miniature and put your own little
100%.
Stamp on a character that you're playing. And we want players to feel like they, these new archetypes that are they're not new, but they'll be new probably to the players that they're going to get to play. They get to kind of put their own stamp on.
Well, the thing for me was, painting miniatures goes back to how I paid to get through university. That's how I paid for my school books. Just painting people's D&D figures.
That's awesome.
And that led to painting other things. But I think the aspect for me too is the sense of hobby and gaming. When that comes together, and I think that not everybody wants to express in both realms, but the fact that you can is a bonus, because if you don't choose to paint them, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
If you do, it's just more to do. So I think that adds another level of experience, and more certainly what can be done with miniature stuff at this point is just bananas. So having more opportunities to take a look at that is certainly welcome in my book.
Tom will not paint your minis. That is the thing.
I'm not sure I even paint all on my own anymore.
I'm not announcing that.
I find other folks to do it for me.
Exactly. There's new people out there, and then maybe one day that'll pay for their school, and then they'll end up working at Sideshow.
I love my take on having moved up the ladder and whatnot. The pay it forward principle is 100% my mantra. There have been so many mentors that have helped my paintwork over the years that I could never thank enough. And so I've always, whether I'm running seminars or I used to run classes in my garage shop 20 years ago, I loved doing that, and I felt that I really was giving something back to, a certain energy that had kind of given me all that inspiration. So
we have one more question.
All right.
You ready?
Is this the tough one?
I mean, maybe.
No? Okay. Not a softball on the way out? All right.
Frederick L. asks, any Court of the Dead characters going 1/6 scale figure and or bust?
Well, I think we've already announced that 6 scale is
the
thing.
Yeah.
So the answer to that is yes. The
Okay.
answer to the character, I think Bree, did we announce which character?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so Kier has made her way into the 6 scale realm. And that piece looks pretty smoking hot. And I think what's cool about it is the armature that is inside that body is really kind of an amazing one. One that I'm kind of jealous we didn't kind of get to, over the last 20 years of our own development in this thing, because it's got, just a lot of internal structure that, one thing that always got me about 6 scale figures is they tend to have a certain snap. Like you get them posed and then they want to kind of pull back with the articulation. But this has, the way they've engineered it inside, which I don't really know, I'd have to actually dissect this, because she's got a rubber bodysuit that kind of gives you that seamless kind of look, which I think is kind of a nice way to look at it. Certainly characters when they've got a lot of, sort of barbaric skin showing. But whatever is in there, it holds the pose. And I thought that was great, because I think a lot of what you're doing, and you can see it on the set even, is, you spend some time, you're looking for that, emotive language that you want your piece displayed on. You want it to stay that way.
Yes.
And I think that this is going to satisfy that. Plus, this thing has got this wicked base that really kind of makes it feel like a 6 scale statue, in as much as it is a 6 scale articulated figure. So really stoked about that. I'm excited because I think that that's most definitely probably something that you can be able to see in person at Comic-Con, and there'll be a lot more highlights of that coming up too. So
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, Tom,
Yeah,
James. Court of the Dead and Skybound, so much amazing gaming goodness coming your way. I'm really excited. Thank you guys. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. After this little video, we have some prototypes to show you, some amazing, delicious prototypes. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Alas, my poor naive mortal, you've been dealt a terrible lie. You dwell in myths of heaven as a place of hope and salvation, and hell as one of punishment for those not worthy of pearly gates. In truth, they are two sides of one vile, corrupt coin, as neither care for salvation nor damnation. Their reality is a place of cruel imbalance, where your mortal souls serve only to further fuel a war of supremacy that is never ending. Horrifying, no? Yet in the shadows lie another path, with one who deals in the cold currency of truth. He is death, the all-taker. His offer is simple. Look past your mortal fears and embrace his promise to restore balance to life and the hereafter. Accept sanctuary amongst the mourners of the Underworld and fight with us. Our celestial masters must be made to see their folly, to restore what is just. We will rise, conquer, and rule.
Welcome back, mourners. As promised, I have amazing things to share with you. Straight from Ilverness, we have the Underworld Muses and a very special guest, Bree, the social media coordinator.
Hey!
So, Bree, I'm so excited, and I didn't even know you guys made these things. These are prototypes, right?
Yes, these are the prototypes. These are the Underworld Muses. These are so beautiful. I'm so excited about them. Can we spin them around?
Yes, you can.
So there's 3 of these. We have the Muse of Spirit,
This is Spirit.
Flesh. Isn't she beautiful?
Oh,
my
yes.
goodness.
Look at
Her
that hair.
Yeah, her hair.
Oh, but then look at this dress.
And bone. So pretty.
This is the first time I'm seeing these, so I'm having a hard time not squeeing all over the place.
Oh, no, they're gorgeous.
Wow.
They're gorgeous. So for anyone that doesn't know,
Can I touch it?
yes, of course. The Underworld Muses are part of a line of 6 art doll SKUs that Sideshow is developing. These are 3 of the SKUs. These are the dressed dolls. They're called the Atelier Cryptus line, and they're loosely based off the factions of the Court of the Dead. So they're kind of like the embodiment of what someone going to Cryptosacore, which is sort of the underworld market for anyone that might not know. And they're out there doing their thing. They're so pretty. They're just unbelievable.
This one has like a side bustle. Look at this side bustle. Can I feel so naughty right now.
No, go
Can
touch
I
them, please.
Reveal
They're
her bustle.
amazing.
Let's see if you can kind of see under here. The level of detail is incredible, but I'm not surprised that's Sideshow.
Yeah,
So-
they're incredible.
And then like even her leg wrapping is so elegant.
They have all of these details in them that are really just embodying the faction. So a Spirit is the only one that doesn't have shoes. She instead has these sort of wisps of etheria that are wrapping around her feet, which, I mean, it's just magical looking. And you can see in her face and in her hands the way her fingers are. She has
Oh,
longer
yeah.
fingers than the rest. She's very, mystical, very,
Spirity.
spiritual, yeah.
Oh, look
She's
at the little
beautiful.
buttons. Oh my gosh, they're so
Yeah.
small. Did you see that?
She's gorgeous.
Oh my goodness. Wow, yeah, that's incredible.
Hmm. And if you go over to Flesh,
Okay, let's go to Flesh.
turn her around.
She even has an appropriate amount of eyeliner and glitter around her eyes. Just want to
Naturally,
point that out.
I mean, she has these insane boots on It's kind of hard to see without turning her around, but the...
Can I turn? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I thought they were trapped that way.
A beautiful
You can see all this.
high heel with
All
this
this
corseted up the
lace.
back. Oh my goodness.
I mean, they're stunning, and the toe of her boot is actually the flesh faction symbol.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
just
see.
Stunning,
Can you see that under there?
stunning detail.
Oh, put that back. There you go.
She, I happen to know actually the designers of these dolls spent the most time on flesh, trying to make sure that she really got down that aspect of regal royalty, you know, adaptation, I am queen-ness of flesh. So
Yeah.
this cape here is removable. In her hands, you can see she's kind of like got this blood sort of stain coming up her hands as the, you know, she just came back from her secret spy mission, and she's just beautiful.
Wow. Okay, let's look at Bone.
Bone again has a lot of details down here on the shoe. These buttons down here, if you come down, these are skulls
What?
all along. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy? So pretty.
Yeah, and then you have the vertebrae up the back.
Yeah.
Oh, and those heels. I want these shoes. Is that a thing? Can I have these? Like,
I
can we
wish,
get these
right?
made?
They're amazing.
Yeah, this
She's-
is beautiful.
Definitely modeled off of the, you know, aspects of Bones. It's the, you know, like the spine along the back of her shoe. This looks very Queen Gethsemane's pelvis bone coming off her, it's Death's pelvis bone that Queen Gethsemane wears as a crown.
Oh, beautiful.
This is kind of modeled off of that a little bit.
I like this, like Victorian, with the ruffles and everything.
Our the cut and sew, the woman who did the cut and sew, Esther Scandudos, who works here at Sideshow, has just an amazing amount of knowledge about historical fashion, and she really paid so much attention to detail in making these outfits and making them really fit the sort of era that they're inspired after. It's astounding. You can see she's got up here this little bone-like rib cage. Her outfit and even her fingers look like they're just creepy, crawly little spiders coming to get you.
Well, even like this front part right here has the ribbon that pieces to this back, that vertebrae down there. You
Yep.
see that? Can you guys see all this? There, I am astounded. Now, I've never seen dolls like this before.
Yes, so these are incredibly high-end 16-inch ball-jointed resin dolls. They're art dolls. These are, as I said before, the dressed versions of them. We do have 3 other SKUs. The body sculpts are the same, the face sculpts are the same, but they have no makeup, no wigs, no outfits. So if you're interested in, you know, doing the makeup yourself or you know, doing the outfit yourself, you can buy blank ones and customize them yourself.
Oh, wow.
They're also highly posable. These dolls, they're jointed at the shoulders. I don't want to miss one. They're jointed at the shoulders.
Can I probably see? Oh,
You
the
can
bone is
take
the
one
best.
out and try it out.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
They're fun to play
I'm
with.
so used to statues being very delicate and.
Well, as I said, these
but
are
this one's
prototypes,
for-
but
Okay, I won't. I'll try not to. break
but
it.
they're highly posable. They're jointed at the shoulder, at the elbow, at the wrist, and then this hand is actually magnetic, so you can. I don't want to. You can pull the hand off, and it's got a magnet. Let's see if I
I'm
can.
gonna have nightmares.
Right in there.
Nightmares about that.
Let me get it back in there. And they're jointed at the rib cage, down here at the knee, at the hip, and at the ankle. So they're super posable. They have custom eye plugins, dual jointed neck and back head plates. So even this
even the
front
head.
head part will come off, which is if you're
Wow.
again choosing to customize them. It's a really great thing to have if you're an artist and you're going to customize them.
This is great because I could draw, like, if I could use them as references. That's the art doll, right? So I could
They're
actually pose them with
incredible.
all the ruffles and fabric and then draw
Everything.
the way the fabric. It's
I
a
mean,
dream come true.
If you're into photography, if you're a toy photographer, I
Yeah.
was fortunate enough to go to the photo shoot when we photographed these dolls, and I mean, it was so much fun. These are so poseable. They are so expressive. They're so fun. And again, they really just embody they're like a physical representation of the factions of the underworld. I mean, they just scream flesh, spirit, and bone. They're incredible. And these will be at Comic-Con, so if you're coming to Comic-Con, please come see them.
Wow. How tall are these? I don't know if we said
16
that.
inches. They're 16-inch ball-jointed resin dolls. They're just amazing. I'm obsessed with them.
Oh man, I am so astounded. And you guys have never done anything like this before?
No, this is our first foray into the world of art dolls. And I mean, if I do say so myself, the design and development team did just an astounding job. They're so stunning. I wish people could see them in person right now. They're glorious.
I honestly got so I'm enamored with them to the point where I actually forgot to let you know that we're taking questions. So if you have any questions, please ask them in chat and then we will answer them. I don't know if you guys have seen anything like this before. I certainly have not. Yeah, can you tell me any more about the characters of these?
Yeah, I can't remember if I already said this or not, but again, this is called the Atelier Cryptus line of our dolls. We will be expanding upon it eventually, but this is our first foray into them. The idea behind them is that this is their everyday appearance. They're going into the underworld to Cryptus Accor. They're trading, baubles and etheria-ridden jewels and etc. And they're the muses, so they do, they have their little impact on the underworld. They spread, little motifs, thematic elements throughout spirit, flesh, and bone. And they're just gorgeous. I mean,
I'm
I'm astounded by them.
I want to put them on the table so you can see them all at once now. If that's cool.
Let me help you.
We have questions. Thank you guys for bearing with me.
Again, this is removable.
Enamored.
This right here, and this wig. I mean, it's just astounding.
It is very inspiring. I am amused by these muses. There you go. Is that good?
Do you have a favorite?
I'm really digging the bone.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cheating on flesh.
She's been
by
a fan
liking
favorite.
The bone. I like the posture, and I like the costume. It's the ruffles and the bone is pretty sweet.
It's those cheekbones. She's got these really sharp cheekbones.
Yeah. Okay, so questions. Are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you, Mourners, for asking your questions. First, the amazing Maxtacular, which is an amazing name. How many designs did they go through to make these?
Oh my goodness. These took well over a year, 2 years almost, I think. I mean, iteration after iteration was gone through. I've seen all of the old designs that came up, and the whole point behind that was just Tom Gilliland, who was just with us, and the designers, Andrew Yang and Daniel Randell, they really wanted to ensure that these looked like the essence of the factions, and that they just breathed flesh, bone, and spirit. So they went through iteration after iteration, and I can't say it enough. What they wound up with is just insane.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant. What Roy Megan asks, what material is their body made from?
Resin. They're made from resin.
And also, do we know the estimated price?
I can't. I can't guarantee anything.
Over $1.
What I can,
it's
yeah,
definitely
over $1.
Over $1.
The dress dolls are, of course, they're coming with a lot more accessories than the blank dolls, so they are more. They're going to be more expensive. What I can tell you is that if you're a collector of dolls, if you know anything about the art doll world, I can tell you that these are going to be a good choice in purchase. For comparison,
I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know there was like, an art doll
whole world out there.
I need to.
Yeah,
do
it
some
blew my
homework.
mind. But I mean, it's an incredible world, but these definitely are worth it. I don't want to say too much, and get in trouble, but
Yeah, no, absolutely.
but you'll find out soon enough.
Wow, thank you.
And by
for
soon enough, I mean
doing
within the
this.
next 2 weeks.
Okay.
likely.
So that's good. We kind of know when they're going to come out.
Well,
Or at least when they're gonna...
RSVP pages will be up soon.
Okay.
So I can say that at least.
Cool. Bree will know all the answers, and wow, this was an amazing show. I am so stupefied and amazed
Stupefied.
and mused by these muses. So thank you so much for being here with me for this my first time playing this part.
I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining us. It's been a hoot. You heard it here first. Let me put her arm down. You heard it here first. Skybound and Sideshow are making games, and we have new art dolls, prototypes. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget, we'll be back another time. I'm not sure when exactly, but we will be back. And don't forget, rise, conquer, rule. See you later.